We're good.
Mm-hmm. What's going on, y'all? This is your girl, Bri Undeniably, checking in for another episode of my new speaker series, Deep Conversations with Dope Individuals, where we're discussing development, decision-making, and dedication to purpose. Today, as always, I am here with another super dope individual. So excited to have him in studio. And his name is Jason Navarre. Jason, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Before I give him the introduction that he deserves, I want to make sure I shout out all the people behind the scenes doing what they do best to make sure that this show stays up and running in high quality form. So first and foremost, if you are watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to it wherever you get your podcasts, shout out to Gotham Podcast Studio. That is where we are coming live from. So Gotham is doing both the audio and the video engineering for this episode, and they have provided the space. So shout out to Gotham. Also, shout out to MC Kicks. MC Kicks has sponsored me since day one. You can find them for all your customizable merch, customizable kicks, denims, anything you want at EMCEEKICKS. If you add a .com, that will be their website, or you can find them on Instagram or any of your social media platforms. And finally, you got to pump yourself up in your own podcast. So if you have not checked out my website, briandeniably.com, you can see everything else that I'm doing, all the other business ventures I have going on, my speaking engagements, workshops I'm running, and of course, you can check out all of my merch. So you can get your dope individual merch there and your I Am Possible merch at briandeniably.com. All right, once again, we are here with Jason Navarre. Jason is a father, husband, financial advisor, and passionate about personal development. Clearly, we know this will be a conversation for the books. We've got two people super passionate about personal development at this table, so sure. I am so happy to be here with you. And fun fact, which my listeners know, but fun fact about you, you have run at least 1 mile for a day for over 5 years.
I have.
Really, really incredible. Like I said, my listeners know that running is near and dear to my heart. I know we have connected about that. So, Jason, welcome again to the show.
Sure. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm actually going to go ahead and close this up because I'm so happy to have you right here in front of me rather than coming through the screen.
Perfect.
So as I start on my podcast, I like to make sure that I give you the introduction that you deserve. And in the counseling community, we like to meet our clients where they're at. I like to use that in the same way in the podcast space and help listeners meet you where you're at. So if you'll help us out and let us know a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. So yeah, where I'm at is very different than where I've come from, right? So like most others, my story had a lot of ups and a lot of downs and a lot of, as you put it, decisions to be made and a lot of development happened over the years. And so, yeah, I'm just happy to make it through some of it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I know just from talking to you previously, I know that there are definitely some depths of your story to tell.
Sure.
Why don't you go ahead and really, maybe I know we said that you're into personal development. So let's talk about really where that started for you.
Sure. So I would think that personal development for me started at a time when I transitioned into kind of what I would consider the real world, right? So growing up, you have kind of your childhood life, right? Whatever that is for everyone. You spend time with your friends and you're so focused on like immediate gratification, all the stuff in the moment, and it's all about fun and joy. But we can't live in that place forever, can we?
We unfortunately cannot.
Right. So So the passion around personal development probably started when I started figuring out, what did I really want to do? What did I want to be? How did I want to contribute? And so yeah, it was probably more of in my adult life.
In your adult life,
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of started asking yourself these questions, sort of pushing into like sort of the large scale questions that a lot of us will ask ourselves, really,
For sure.
really broad.
Yeah.
When did it start to narrow?
Find?
Yeah.
What
did you find?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's good. So I, as you mentioned, I have a tendency to go super deep. Okay. So
hey, that's what we're here for.
Good.
That's deep conversations.
Good. So I brought it all the way back.
Please.
I went all the way back in kind of a timeline type of sense. I said, you know what what was it about upbringing, right? What was it about the environment that I was exposed to in my childhood that caused me or allowed me to have the thoughts that I currently have, the way that I currently see things. And so as I tell you, maybe part of that story, so I grew up as a kid with just a crazy amount of energy, like obnoxious. Not almost uncontrollable. It was uncontrollable, to the point to where my mom wouldn't take me places. I couldn't go to the grocery store with her. And so I grew up an athlete. I think they just kind of stuck me in soccer just to kind of get some of that energy out because I didn't stop running.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
You can just run.
So they stuck me out there and did that. And so just kind of fell into it, fell into being an athlete, enjoyed the camaraderie, enjoyed the team atmosphere. And I have a younger brother. And so my younger brother was very different than me. He was not an athlete, but if you wanted him to build something, that was his spot, right? He was the guy with like the Lego fortress, right? Like his playroom had all the cool stuff in it. It was all built up nice. And I was more of throwing the football to break it and do that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So to give you an idea of that dynamic. But as I went back and started thinking about that childhood, I said, man, what were some of the things that kind of shaped what I carried into my adult life? And one of the things that stood out to me was school was always something that I took relatively easy, right? It came easy to me. I enjoyed being at school. I liked attention, right? I wanted the attention, so I was kind of the class clown.
Okay.
And I got the attention. I acted out, and I'd get in trouble, okay? So very early on, I'd bring, we called them minors and majors, small offenses and big offenses.
Okay.
Right? That's what the school called them. And so I'd bring them home, and my dad would lose his mind, right? Just unleash rage, anger, verbal, physical abuse, that kind of stuff. And it didn't affect me to the point to where I felt like the solution was to change my behavior.
Okay.
It affected me to the point of where, like, I got to figure out how to not have to get him to sign it. Okay.
You went into innovative thinking rather than taking the disciplinary action and going with that. You're like, oh, there's a way around this.
That's right. It was extremely painful. Don't get me wrong. The pain of the moment was real. The pain of the moment it was very real. But my way around it at the time, a less mature self, was let me just figure out a way to get around it. And it was actually a pretty easy way to get around it. My mom, she didn't like it either, right? She didn't like the anger, didn't like the difficulty and all that of what him finding out. So I would bring it to her, and she wouldn't share it with him. So I'd go back to school, share the paper, we're good. Well, that only lasts so long.
Right.
Because after repeated offenses, then suspension and all this other stuff came up, and then Dad had to then again become involved because teacher-parent conferences, calling the house, and all this stuff. And so I realized that hiding and lying and being shady about avoiding discomfort or avoiding pain is not a long-term solution, right?
That is spot on. Can you tell us more? Because that's not something that everyone has yet to realize.
Yeah. And so, and again, I did not understand any of this in the moment, right? I only have grown to know it over time and as I reflected on it. But yeah, as I look back, that was a very early on, just key moment in my development that said, look, this is not a good long-term path. So, some other thoughts were just kind of, the neighborhood we grew up in wasn't the best, right? It wasn't the best neighborhood that you would probably choose to live in if you had control of everything. But we enjoyed it. It was awesome. We were outside kids. We, played hide and go seek in the whole neighborhood. We actually lived up against the railroad tracks.
Okay.
So the railroad, my house backed up to the railroad tracks. You look out my back, my bedroom window, and you saw the tracks. Well, we would conveniently take that as a mode of transportation. Okay. Not the kind you're supposed to get in. Not the Not the Amtrak that you go and pay for the ticket and go sit at the station and get inside the train. No, we would wait until it slowed down.
I see. Oh, man, this seems like a real recipe for something.
Run alongside the railroad track, run alongside the train, jump, grab, and hang on the train.
Oh, my goodness.
How else were we going to get to the pond? We had to go swim at the pond.
Right.
And the pond was like a couple miles away, and so...
That was the only way.
That was the way to get there.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So.
All right, I'm really getting a peek into the window of your development.
That's right.
From when you were younger. You're definitely offering those spaces of growth from back then.
That's right.
In learning.
That's right. And what that highlights too, though, to bring it full circle, is that super attentive supervision wasn't exactly there a lot of times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, in a sense, just kind of made my way, just kind of enjoying things, and just having fun.
So you were, let's call you free-spirited.
Very much so.
When you were younger. Not
Very
to say you're
much
not now, but that free spirit in you, I'm sure, brought you many places.
It did.
On the train and otherwise.
Sure. That's right.
Let's just keep going along that trajectory. So
Sure.
you're living life, enjoying your time, full of energy, just kind of taking the train where it takes you.
That's right.
Where did it take you? What's the next part in your journey? What comes after this young, free-spirited individual?
Sure. So soccer kind of stays my path.
Okay.
Right. I enjoy it. Do travel and do all the fun stuff with that. And that time was so much fun. And it was great. And one of the, I guess, developmental pieces of that, as I look back, is I played for the fun of the game. I played for the enjoyment of it, but in being, kind of just being present, being all out, like being full out, like, as you might know and have any exposure with soccer, there's no timeouts, right? So for me, the way that I connect with that is that you're in. Like, when in between the whistles, there's no such thing as like stoppage. There's no such thing as like pause or anything like that. And so it's just go, go, go. And so I think a bit of that kind of carried over into my adult life, where I do like change. I like new things. I like novelty. I adapt well to change. Some might say a little too quickly.
Okay.
Those some being my wife.
Okay.
But yeah, so soccer was kind of that middle range. But another thing about the time that I spent playing soccer and development was I found myself, even in practice, we'd set up for drills, and there'd be 3 people, and you pass to the one guy, and then the other guy passed it back, and you had a rotation about who wound up in your line. I found myself in the moment getting frustrated when I got set up with people who I knew weren't really going to do it at the level that I would have expected them to. And so part of me now today is like, man, I was probably kind of like, almost kind of thinking like I was maybe even like a bully, or like kind of not looking highly upon those people. But at the end of the day, like I just wanted it to be done well.
Right.
I just wanted the drill to be executed seamlessly, easily, and to go well. And so, and again, in the moment, it was more of just frustration with that individual. But in hindsight, I can kind of more maturely say, I just wanted to score. I just wanted to be good. I just wanted the best rep possible.
Yeah.
Some of the thoughts.
I was going to say, you weren't seeing it as hurting or hurting someone's feelings, or, trying to play down someone else's skill, but more just trying to enhance what was happening, making sure that the best possible situation happened on the field.
That's right. I want everybody to be good.
Right.
I want them all to be good. Yeah.
And I love that you bring that example in, because I just think it's so interesting. It's kind of like this place where, especially while we're developing, when we're younger, we can have these blinders up. tunnel vision, the way, it really is exactly, you see your path, you see this one path, but you don't necessarily see what's happening in the peripherals or on the outside, and also see how that might be affecting you or others.
Right.
So
I was a little bit lacking awareness
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's okay though, because at a young age, most of us are. Self-awareness doesn't actually really hit us, I would say, most of us, until we're at some place in adulthood. Though we can be self-aware children and adolescents, but sort of that full spectrum self-awareness doesn't come in until a little bit later. So
Sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And so from soccer, kind of staying on the sports track, again, that was all I really played in park ball until my 8th grade year. I played football for the first time. It was like I always wanted to play football, always kind of had this desire to do it, but I played soccer year round. Mm-hmm. So there was never time. I had to choose one or the other. Well, 8th grade year, played football, and man, something like came alive in me.
Okay.
Something
all right.
like there was this energy release that was different.
Okay.
Soccer's great. You're running around, you're kicking the ball, you're releasing energy. But the idea of like unleashing yourself on someone else and kind of exerting energy into someone else, there was just something about that to where it spoke to me, and I related to football in a really great way.
Okay, so it was kind of like this, almost like a growth point for you.
Very much.
Where not that, again, soccer had your roots, but now you're like, okay, here's another way for me to be exerting my energy, but in a way that feels maybe more meaningful or more engaging for you at the time.
Sure. Yeah, but I was still the football player that, like, I played defense, and so I would make the sack and then, like, help the quarterback up. Like that kind of thing. Like, there was no shame in that. It was like, between the whistles, I don't like you. Yeah. Outside of the whistles, yeah, we're cool. Like, it doesn't matter, right? It was the game.
Yes.
And I was able to differentiate those things in a certain way to where I knew when we were on the playing field, it was one thing, and then outside of that, it was a different thing. So that was maybe one of the first times thinking about the idea of kind of segmenting attention and segmenting and kind of separating out.
I think you really just spoke to sort of that skill that we were just saying, though, where you had your blinders on the soccer field, but now here you are helping the other teammate up, or the other opponent or whatever, where it's like your awareness did expand there in that sport. Possibly. That's what it seems like to me. There was this expansion of awareness.
Yeah, for sure.
In some way.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, okay, soccer to football, and now here we are somewhere in high school. You said that was eighth grade?
8th grade was the first year I played park ball, and then it was actually a really great transition because the junior high that I was at didn't have a high school, so I had to go to a new school, right?
Okay.
And almost everyone from my junior high didn't go to the high school that I attended, okay? So the side of the town that I lived on, I went to a private junior high and private kindergarten through 8th grade. We won't get into all the kind of we might, but how that came to be, it wasn't funded by my parents. So we lived on a side of town that the public schools in that area were fed differently, right? They fed from other public schools to go to the high school. So private junior high and then public high school. So the football element actually made the transition very easy. Not that I was opposed to change already, but the transition to high school was really great because I got to meet all these guys.
Right.
Training with them over the summer, getting to know them, and playing football. I felt very comfortable going into freshman year.
Great.
And there's actually a really great story about that.
Let's hear
it. So I get to know some of the guys, and like guys do. Hey, Jay, you're the new guy, right? This is the girl.
Oh,
okay.
Sheesh.
This is the girl. If there's anyone, this is the one.
This is the one.
And so I get introduced to the girl at a little luau dance, and we hit it off, and friendly, and part of the warning that I got at that time was, hey, look, my brother's a senior and he might be lurking around at the dance, so be careful. We have to kind of arms stretched out if that were to happen. So that was part of the story too. But either way, we wound up spending some time together that summer. Okay. Well, this particular girl is very forward, very direct, very confident.
Okay.
And we're finishing up like a little like big group play date. Again, 13 years old. She just walks up to me next to the house. She's like, "Do you like me?" Straight up. Just like looks in my face and is like, "So do you like me?" And I'm like,
I love her energy.
I'm like, I don't really know you that well. Yeah. That's legit, my answer. I don't really know you that well. And guess what she did? Gives me a hug and says, "Okay." She runs off. I'm like,
jeez.
Holy crap, okay. So
13-year-old Jason starts sweating.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, crap, I hope. And one of those decision moments, I hope that wasn't a terrible decision. So
Oh man.
So I go back and join the rest of the guys that I was with, and we wound up just leaving. Well, the next week, that girl dating someone else. She dated that someone else for the next 5 years. We stayed friends, and then we didn't actually wind up getting together until sophomore year of college, and now she's my wife.
I had a sneaky feeling you were gonna. That's why I liked her energy. Shout out to her.
That's right. That's right.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that is such a great
so there was this
story.
like 5-year stretch.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Isn't that crazy the way life works?
We stayed great friends.
Yeah.
But see, what was cool about it is I was laying groundwork the whole time.
Yeah.
I would go plant seeds with her dad.
Yeah.
I knew that he was the one that kind of really made the decision ultimately. At least I felt like it at the time. So I would go have lunch with her dad, and hang out with him, and so we developed a really cool relationship too. So once it came time for us to be together, that was a really smooth transition too.
That's awesome. And it's so funny when you really can hindsight see the way something can form like that, because you might have thought in that moment, was that a bad decision? But also, you could have needed those 5 years to become who you are and to become who she needed you to be.
We both look back on it now and we're like, there's absolutely no way we could have been together in high school. And so looking back on it, I know without a doubt it happened exactly the way that it needed to.
Yes. Oh, I love to hear stories like that and really be able to see them and how they come to be and how they flourish, because we can have those moments where you're like, oh man, I hope that wasn't a bad decision. Right. And it's like those decision-making moments, even when you're 13 or however old you might be, we always have that moment of pause, deciding, was that the right decision? We will second guess the decision we made, trying to make another decision. Was it good or not? Do I go back on it or not? Which way does the scale lean in my favor? And we can't figure those things out, but we try to. We don't know. We don't know. That's right. But there is, there are those gut feelings or intuitive moments that might lead us in those directions. But very, very interesting to look back. Also, so wonderful. This is your wife now, and I know it's been several years. I know you told me you'll have been together
13 plus. Yeah. So
congratulations.
Married in 08. So yeah.
Wow, right decision was made back then.
It was.
Okay, so let's keep it going. I'm just loving this, hearing you're really doing such a great job of letting everyone know sort of the unfolding of how things developed in your life. So just keep taking us along the journey.
Sure. So the next thing I think would be helpful is to really maybe spend a little bit of time on something that could be thought of as a bad event. Right.
Let's talk about it.
So I think about like Inky Johnson, for instance. Are you familiar with Inky Johnson?
Let's give me an overall description of who this person is.
Phenomenal high school athlete, college athlete, football player. Played at the University of Tennessee.
Got it.
Was slated to be a very high draft pick in the NFL. Okay. He has a severe injury, paralyzes him still to this day. He's paralyzed. He doesn't have the use. I believe it's his left, right. I'm not exactly sure. But he can't use his arm. Okay.
Oh, man.
In that moment, the thought is, oh, my goodness. Nothing could be worse than someone who's destined for the type of success that he was hoping to have in his NFL career, and then to be hit with something like that. But if you look at him today, he would have never been able to impact the number of people that he's impacted to this point in the ministry, purpose-driven, passion type of business that he's in now. He would have never touched as many lives as he's touched as a football player, as a motivational speaker, the way he is.
Wow. Very interesting. Really. And it's so, again, hindsight really is 2020. You don't see when something happens how tragic it feels, and because you're destined for one path, when really the train tracks were supposed to bring you to the other destiny that you're really meant for.
Sure. So I tee up the Inky Johnson thing because I myself had a knee injury. So I was uninjured my entire athletic career until my senior year of high school. We were playing an inner city school, kind of a rough and tough crowd, right? First round of the playoffs. And the game was rough. They were being physical, as they should. It's football. They should be physical. But early on in the game, they weren't just being physical. They were being dirty.
Okay. Very different.
My best friend was the quarterback, and he got sacked. He got the ball off. And instead of just tackling the guy and rolling off and doing what he needed to do, the guy that hit him was digging in his face mask. Okay. Like, trying to hurt him.
That's a no-go. Yeah, that is a no-go.
So me, being protective and being a friend, I'm like, all right, I got his number. I'll see who he is. And so for the rest of the game, I let that occupy my attention. I did. So much so that we were up significantly late in the third quarter. That coach took we're in the playoffs. So coach took all the starters out. So I'm on the sidelines. And here I am moping around, pissed off. I'm frustrated. I'm aggravated because I hadn't gotten revenge yet.
And that was all.
That was all I was thinking about.
That was on.
That's all I was thinking about.
The only thing on your mind.
Hadn't gotten revenge yet. So sure enough, I don't know what changes were made or whatever, but I wound up back in the game. Okay, punt coverage. I see his number, see who he is. I go to hit him head up. But like someone who would be of the character that would dig in someone's face mask, instead of hitting me head up, this dude just dove at my knee.
No. Oh, no.
Puts his helmet on my knee, tears my knee all to shreds. I'm on the ground hollering. The bench is clear. Fight ensues.
Oh, my goodness.
The game wound up getting ended. It wound up ending before the time actually wound up going out. We still won because we were up by like 40. But anyway, the game wound up ending as a result of that play. Okay. For me, I look at that, career-ending type of decision, career-ending type of injury, all the emotions that come around that. But for me, the biggest takeaway and the lesson that I learned from that experience was the idea that it's not my responsibility to pursue regret or pursue retaliation or pursue any type of like eye for an eye, I'll get you back kind of thing. So that was my takeaway from that experience, that if you try to take that path, the only thing that's really going to come of it is going to be painful. It's going to be hurt.
Such an important takeaway, too, because you're not the only one. That might be one of the most human things of all of us, is that, when something happens, again, we expect that scale to balance in the other direction somehow or some way. And we often believe that we can take that into our own hands.
It's my responsibility.
Right.
I can do it. No.
We can balance the scale, and that's just
not the case. That's right. Wow. But there were a few other things that come from that too, though, because I now look at it. I quickly got to the point where it was like, that obviously changed the direction of where I decided to go for college, because I couldn't play my soccer. So I still played soccer through high school. Okay. And I wasn't able to play my senior year. So that somewhat affected kind of what the trajectory of my college career would look like. And so ultimately, I guess if you want to call it long story short, I wound up playing football in college, and Southeastern, a local 1AA school, 40 miles from home, still wound up honoring my ride and honoring all the commitments and everything before the injury. So, so in hindsight, again, in a similar way, it worked out exactly the way that it needed to.
It was Inky Johnson, right?
Inky Johnson.
Inky Johnson. Yeah. The story makes so much sense now. It really does connect, because again, that train track. You thought you were going down this track that just made sense for you, but life changed the course, and I would say that it's brought you to a pretty magnificent place.
It's brought me to an incredible place. Yeah.
Let's hear it. Let's here we are kind of moving in to that second half of the show, sort of understanding what's taken place from then, what's going on now, how has this, sort of changed your life and brought you to the purpose-driven person that you are.
Sure. So there's countless other stories that I would be able to share, of course, but I love what you're saying, and there's definitely a chance for us to transition into some of that other thought.
We still have time too. We still got about a half hour, so wherever you want to take it, this is your story to tell, and I'm happy to be here on the journey with you.
Cool. Okay. So another decision-making moment that I think would be key is that wasn't the last injury I would have. Okay. So I redshirted my freshman year due to the injury and really just trained, right? Mm-hmm. Got in the best shape I've ever been in my life, fastest I've ever been, strongest I've ever been. And first game of my redshirt sophomore year, I tear my ACL again. The first game. Gracious. Literally the first game.
Oh,
and and so I won't get into all the details but then 8 months in, ACL tear, full reconstruction is probably, depending on the caliber of the surgeon, the amount of the resources that you have and all that stuff, it can be, a 6 month, return to playing. Well, 4 or 5 months in, being the free spirit and rebel that I've already described myself as, you can appreciate that I didn't follow the instructions the way that the trainer told me I should.
Life is a learning process.
So I was doing a lift in the weight room that I wasn't supposed to be doing.
Got it.
Power clean.
Okay.
Right?
Oh,
so you pull it up from the ground, snatch it, to get it here. And instead of just dropping under the weight, I spread my base and my knee popped out from the side. And so I tore my ACL again before I even got back on the field.
Oh my goodness. I don't have I'm over here. I'm just, if you're listening and not watching, I'm just cringing over here on the sides here.
So that was another point of decision.
Man. Oh, Jason, this is so, what was going through your head? What was that moment like for you?
It was extremely painful, first of all.
Yeah.
And man, what did I just do? But what was so great is the school was willing to honor my ride. They were willing to honor everything and keep me on board there. But at about that time, that strong, confident girl re-entered my life in a different way.
Okay.
And she wasn't at Southeastern.
She
see. Was at LSU. And that was another 40 miles away. And so I had the decision of staying there and, being a manager, being whatever they decided to be, to just leave me on, because the coach kind of encouraged me. He's like, look, man, you might not be the, whatever. So so I decide that I want to pay for school and I want to go to Baton Rouge. So I leave, go to LSU and to be closer to Lauren. And work my way through school. Lost 49 hours in the transfer. But I think that was part of my transition into reality, though. That was really the major transition into reality. Because as a college athlete, a lot of things are still done for you in a sense. You kind of have stipends. You kind of have, different things. You're kind of catered to in a way. I worked while I was at Southeastern, but I didn't work for a living, right? Mm-hmm. When I get to LSU, I'm now on my own dime.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so part of that story is, at first I worked as a manager at Raising Cane's.
Okay. Got it.
So this is where all the groundwork that I put in with father-in-law means so much. Okay. Because I asked for his daughter's hand when I was a manager at a fast food restaurant.
He knew that you were still, no matter wherever you landed, you were a good man for his daughter.
I actually proposed to her not far from here, right in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love to hear that.
Yeah. So April 4th of 2007. So
yeah. Beautiful.
But so I knew the fast food deal wasn't going to last long, so I had to work differently. So I was still full-time in school. And so I worked as I don't know if you're familiar with this, but like a Pepsi driver, like a merchandiser.
Okay.
Right? Like a person that's like filling the shelves at Walmart kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started out at the entry level, and I was like, man, well, what do you do to make more money? They were like, well, you got to get your CDL. You got to be able to drive a truck. And I was like, all right, great. Trucks are in the back? Yeah, trucks are in the back. So I just went in the back and just trained myself. I would go and run my merchandiser route and come back and train myself essentially how to back up an 18-wheeler trailer to a dock and do all this stuff. Went back in the office a few weeks later and was like, all right, I'm ready to take my test. They were like, take your test? For what? I was like, I'm ready to get my CDL. So they sent me down to New Orleans, take the test and pass. And so next thing you know, I'm an 18-wheeler driver driving a truck and going to school full time. And
I just love that your story has taken us in so many different branches of your life.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, so you get this driving license, this
That's
18-wheeler license. Hey, just another piece of development right in there.
That's it. But it also shows you like just real life, right?
Yeah.
So I was still in school full time, and so I had afternoon classes. Well, my route was long, and so I had to get done early. Mm-hmm. So what did I have to do to get done early? I had to get there before everyone else. The gates weren't even open yet. I had to jump the fence in the yard and go count my truck before anyone else got there, and I would pull it up first so that way I didn't have to wait on anyone else to count their trucks. The first supervisor that was there to be able to confirm my count, I was able to go. And so I'd be the first truck out the yard every day to be able to finish up early and then get to school.
Wow. Just like you said, just another place along the journey that sort of helped you. It's not like this was where your purpose was sitting, but this is where you learned the skills. That's right. This is where you grew into who you were becoming. Yeah. I can not relate in the driving sense, but can relate to, I was a bartender for 10 years through school, undergrad and grad school, and the gap years that I took in between, because that was what I figured out how to do as a freshman in undergrad. Right. I got a job in a restaurant and sort of worked my way up. I started as a host, and within 3 months I was behind the bar. And then all of a sudden, hey, this is making me money and helping me figure out how I can, grow as an individual, at least have some pocket cash during when I needed it. And though being in the restaurant industry has never been a passion of mine, it is probably, I would say, one of the places I gained most of my skills as an individual, as an adult, and to be able to put forth into who I am and into what I'm developing and who I'm developing as well. I mean, I learned it all working in that industry. So
I can understand that.
Yeah.
We have 2 daughters, and my wife said it is a requirement that they are in the service industry in some form or fashion, because she too was a bartender in college. And it was great.
I love that rule because it's so true. You can just tell people who have not worked in the industry, as people in the restaurant industry just refer to it as the industry, but you can really tell who has not worked in that place, because there's just a different level of understanding, and that understanding definitely comes within the packaging of understanding others, and understanding the hard work that's happening behind the scenes in the industry, and how everyone there is working their tail off for something more for them. And so there's just there's so much that goes into it.
Oh wait, but y'all close at 10. It's 9:45 and I'm showing up. Why aren't you going to serve me? Yeah. Right.
We're not going to get into this now.
Right. We're not doing that today.
We've only got 20 minutes left.
Yeah. But one other significant story about kind of that phase of my life would be when Lauren and I were getting joint bank accounts. Okay.
Oh, this is an interesting one. I don't know the story. I want you to tell us, but I can imagine this could be very beneficial for some people.
For a lot of people. And part of it was very quickly, right? So doing the deal as a truck driver and just grinding that. I'm looking at the supervisor, and I'm like, I don't want that dude's life. I'm sorry. He's great. I love you. But I'm sorry. If I have my choice, I'm going to decide something different. Yeah. And so we were getting joint bank accounts. And we sit down with the guy and, we're doing the deal. And long story short, we finish and we're walking out, and I look at my wife and I was like, man, babe, that whole interaction would have been a lot better if I was sitting where he's sitting and someone else was the clients, right? So I felt like I could do his job way better than him. And she's like, okay, you're a truck driver. You worked at a fast food restaurant. You've got, you played football. You did this other stuff. It's like, what qualifications do you have to be in banking? You don't have any financial experience. I was like, I'm just going to call him up and tell him I want the job. And she's like, okay.
Love the confidence.
I call him up and they tell me, you don't have any experience. You can't have the job. I'm like, okay, babe, you're right. You're right.
Lauren, it seems like Lauren, it's like Lauren, several checks.
She's on it.
Jason.
You have no idea. You'll get to know. But my persistence wound up prevailing. A few months later, they did wind up coming back to me and not offering me a normal job inside of a real bank. They offered me a job inside of a grocery. Okay.
Okay.
So inside of a grocery store, like a teller window.
Yeah.
And so the deck's kind of stacked against you because you have to run the teller transaction, and your responsibility as a banker is to find an opportunity with the customer and then transition them into an opportunity to be more helpful to them, right? So you're serving their needs, and then you find out and look for and identify an opportunity to help them and kind of help them grow financially, and then you transition them to a deeper conversation in the desk. So you had to get them to the desk.
Okay.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that was a cool opportunity because it showed me, like, I got to watch behavior. I got to watch financial behaviors. I got to watch the people who consistently came in and paid the minimum on their credit cards.
Yeah.
I got to watch people who consistently came in and made deposits and have conversations with each one and understand the psychology of it all. And so that was my introduction to banking.
Okay.
And then, again, just to kind of fast forward, spent a few years with a major national bank, and then did some lending. And then I've been an advisor for the past, approaching 10 years now.
So I just love like the lead up into that too, because again, it was like you sort of stuck your neck out there, like, okay, even if I don't have the experience, like, how do I get my foot in the door?
That's right.
Because I have the confidence in my qualifications up to this point. So I'm ready to, put me on the path to getting my foot in the door. And the fact that you said that you studied the behavior of people coming in. So you didn't just take the job at face value and, identifying the opportunities and getting them to go to the desk or the next teller. Right. But you studied the behavior, which seems like that's something that's high level. That's a skill that I can't imagine everyone going into that position was doing. And I think that could have been something that really set you apart in that position.
Yeah. So yeah, it was relatively successful there, and yeah, kind of in that market, top in the country, and did some pretty cool things there. So yeah, it was great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we are, I always kind of let my guests know the time. So we have about 15 minutes now. In the last 10 minutes, I like to do a little bit of a rapid fire. We talk a little bit more about purpose. So we do have about 5 more minutes. I want to know, so we've arrived here. We've arrived at current Jason and where he's at. So let's talk about the infusion of, the passion for personal development in the field that you're in, and the infusion of everything else that you've done that you would say kind of brings in that purpose piece for you.
Sure. And so it does actually transition very well, because my time that I have spent as an advisor has put me in the room with people that we get to have one-on-one conversations, right? It's unrecorded.
Yeah.
No one's listening. It's just me and them. And I feel like that's when the purest conversations happen. That's when the most development and growth happens, is when someone creates a space for you to feel accepted, feel not judged, not labeled, and really just open themselves up and maybe even share something, as you can tell, maybe even share something that might kind of bring that wall down a little bit, like share something kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I do that sometimes. Like I'll just share something off the wall and they're kind of looking at me like I'm wild, and I just like, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But it lightens the mood enough to where they feel comfortable to be able to say, oh, okay.
Right.
He's got a suit on, but the guy's normal. Like I can
Right.
share, I can open up and share the meat, right? I can actually share some of the pain,
Right.
right?
You're letting them know that you're human first.
Sure.
You know, and sometimes one of those stories just outlandish or out of nowhere, it's like, hey, you know, I'm a human too.
Yeah.
I have stories to tell outside of the suit that I'm wearing.
Correct.
Or, you know, how you might think that I present in the role that I'm in.
Sure. And so they're sitting there thinking, if he's comfortable with sharing that, then man, this stuff that I'm worried about is no problem at all. I can just
Right.
share that.
Well, especially dealing with people's money.
Yes.
That might be, and it's so funny because I talk about money sometimes, but I don't always have people who are in the money game really doing anything with finances on the show. You might be the second individual I've had who's
Sure.
really in finance. So you're dealing with something that's so vulnerable for people, and it's not something that we talk about so often, that, you know, people talking about their money, it touches on a lot of other things in their life.
That's right.
It's really touching on far more than just what's in their wallet or their bank account. So there's a level of extreme trust that I'm sure has to take place, and extreme vulnerability for them to really be able to open up, to be able to talk to you about those things.
Absolutely. It's one of these thoughts where you want to be honest with everyone, but you can only be vulnerable with few, right? And so sharing in the type of way that I do allows them to know that I've been vulnerable with them, and so they reciprocate.
Yeah,
So it helps.
absolutely.
So so my time as an advisor has really allowed me, first of all, to continue to spend time with other humans, right? And spend time in conversation and in interactions and kind of thinking through behaviors. And I found myself pretty regularly realizing that they were coming to me with financial needs and concerns. But for the most part, I was seeing their issue or things that they might be struggling with as being way deeper or way different than just their finances, right?
Yeah.
And so I would spend more time with that. It's funny. I've got a really good friend of mine in the business that we've developed a great friendship, and we're super close with one another. And I'll come out of a really, really long meeting, and again, some of the people in our business know that a lot of times it's about efficient use of time, and it's you know, you want to be effective. And I'll come out of like a 3-hour meeting, okay? Like bump my next meeting, and I'll come out and he's like, man, you must have opened a monster, or you must have closed it. And it's like, no, actually, we weren't talking about business. And it's some of those meetings that I feel like were most fruitful.
I love that so much. I love it. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm sure it doesn't necessarily make sense to the people thinking that you were closing a major deal.
Right.
To me, that makes all the sense in the world.
It is.
That makes, like, you're connecting on that human level. And when you can connect on that human level, that's when human being to human being, they will trust you a lot more with their financials.
Sure.
And everything. If they're trusting you with stories that they're telling about their life, then they're going to trust you with everything else that might pair with that.
Sure.
Very, very unique, very interesting. I love to hear that perspective. I wish that there were more people working with money that also worked with people holding the money, not just the money itself.
So one quick framework that I would like to share before you go into your rapid fire stuff. So I have this kind of idea that I call, and I know the terminology is kind of funny, but I call it the F squared formula.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
And this is basically my way of encouraging people to go from a place of fear to freedom.
Awesome.
Okay.
Oh, it sounds great already.
In 3 major areas of their life. In fitness, and that's mental and physical. Their family, and also friends.
Okay.
And their finances.
Awesome.
Okay. So most often in the fitness area, I don't think we spend enough time in silence.
Yes.
The solution to mental health, the solution to mental difficulty is to spend time in silence and attempting to just find stillness. And I think in today's world, I think too often we have gotten into a place where we've kind of got it flipped on its head, where inertia is a real thing, right? A body at rest tends to stay at rest, and a body in motion tends to stay in motion. Well, we've applied that stillness to our physical fitness as opposed to our mental fitness. And so we're kind of sedentary in our behaviors physically, whereas the solution to our physical fitness is really movement, right? Our bodies are made to move. And so my thought around the physical fitness thing is it's really just a matter of really taking a hard look at how often do you move your body with intention, right? And that's part of what I thought of as the 1K today, or the 1 kilometer per day, and that's where that spawned from, is the idea that people just need to move more intentionally on a regular basis and develop a habit on purpose with intention every single day.
Oh, that intention piece is so pertinent too. I absolutely, yes. Keep going, because I'm right on track with you.
Sure. So I love the stillness idea, because today I feel like too, if there's a diagnosis, it's basically perpetual distraction.
Yeah.
Right? That we go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And we haven't really spent time cultivating our focus, or cultivating our ability to just to direct where we go. It's directed for us, right? And so that's just kind of wrapping up the mental fitness piece.
The mental fitness, that stillness, really, really powerful.
Stillness is key. And then when I think about family and friends, I think about the health of the relationship. Okay, in any relationship that you have, as close or as distant, is going to grow or fail based on two things: the frequency of communication and the depth of communication. Okay? So if the conversation that we have stays about the weather, our relationship's going to stay about the weather.
Right.
And if we talk once a year, it's not going to be it's not going to be a healthy relationship either. And so the way to foster or fuel health in any relationship is frequency of conversation and the depth of conversation. Now, what has to happen in order for you to be comfortable enough to be deep is that you need to find that stillness and that mental space for yourself.
Connect it back. Oh, that makes so much sense. Really, really well manufactured too. Like that just, they fit so well together. You need to be able to find that. It's almost like you need to cultivate the relationship with yourself to be able to have the relationship with the others.
My terminology for that is vertical anchor. So to be vertically anchored first before you allow any type of horizontal influences to impact you.
Love that. Really, really powerful. Vertical influence. I'm going to start using that.
Anchor.
Vertical anchor. Excuse me.
And then bringing it to the finances, I know that money, and again, you already brought it up, it's like it's almost taboo, right? It's almost like people have this, they're triggered when you think about money.
Yes.
It's got this filthy idea, this dirty, it's, greed. But the truth is money is not discriminatory in any way. Money doesn't care. Money doesn't have feelings.
Yes.
Right? To take you from fear to freedom when it comes to your finances, it's unhealthy, in fact, to make a decision from a place of scarcity.
Yeah. It's
unhealthy to describe things in a way, oh, I can't afford that, or I'm limited, or I operate from lack. The truth is that you would like the opportunity to have options, right? And freedom comes in the idea of doing what it takes to actually earn the value that you hope to be communicating, and therefore being able to turn that into the options that you might have in your selections. If you go through the fast food at at McDonald's, and you got $5 in your pocket, you're very limited on what you can get. You're on the dollar menu. But if you go through, then you can go to Ruth's Chris if you've got, or pick a steakhouse, and this is in New York. But you can pick a steakhouse and have whatever you want if the financial concerns aren't there. And that's relative at any level.
Yes.
Okay? It's relative at any level of financial success, because it's progressive in that today's society kind of promotes this idea of, we're going to kind of spend to the capacity of what our income will allow, as opposed to, man, I would like to spend at a healthy level that helps me get the quality that I would like, but it also doesn't disturb my internal peace to the point to where it unsettles me. Because money has a way of unsettling people if they overextend themselves.
Yes.
Right.
So what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing you really describing the use of money not as the goal, but as the tool.
It's just a tool.
It's a
tool. It buys
tool.
freedoms.
Mm-hmm.
It buys freedoms.
Mm-hmm. It's really, really an important message. It really is, because that sort of, I guess, takes away so much of that, the financial burden that we feel when we don't have it, when we actually can live within our means and continue to leverage it to buy the freedoms that we want.
That's right.
Really, really, really great. I love this framework, the F-squared framework, right?
F-squared formula, that's it.
F-squared formula. Thank you
That's
so
it.
much for sharing that. Really, really powerful. I hope everyone, I can put all these details in our show notes as well if you'd like, but we've got 4 minutes, so I want to make sure we can wrap up with rapid fire. I'm going to leave you the floor one more time, and then you can let everyone know where they can find you.
Sure.
All right. So as we wrap up, I think we did an incredible job of talking about the 3 pillars: development, decision-making, and dedication to purpose. That's what I like to bring in these 3 questions for. So the first one is, currently, in terms of development, are you working more on personal development or professional development?
I've spent an obnoxious amount of time on personal development. And so, yes, now I'm in a transition back into professional development applying the personal development in the professional development space.
I always make a joke because it's kind of like a trick question. Maybe I should change it because I know that the two are so intertwined, but that makes a lot of sense that you're applying everything that you learned personally into the professional setting.
That's right.
Okay, decision making. I'm going to give you the question and then give you a little bit of a explanation. So when you're making decisions, do you make them more based on choice or guiding voice? Choice meaning you follow numbers and analytics and you come to the decision. Guiding voice mean you follow intuition, gut feeling, spirituality, or something else where the decision comes to you.
I am almost entirely guiding voice.
Guiding voice. Yeah. Got it.
The other side doesn't really hold much weight for me. But that's not. But I don't discriminate or judge anyone that operates that way. Just for me, it's almost entirely guiding voice.
That makes plenty of sense to me. Yeah. All right, last couple of minutes. Purpose. I'm actually just going to ask you, what is your definition of purpose, or what does purpose mean to you?
I can honestly say I haven't considered a definition.
Okay, that's okay.
A definition of purpose. To just be present, be intentional.
Yes.
Don't carry anything with you.
Oh, I love the power in that.
Don't carry anything with you. Be all the way here. And if you have the ability to kind of remove the memories of the past and attempt to avoid forecasting too much in the future and just be right here, I think that's where most people will find the joy that they're looking for.
So beautiful. Thank you for that. Oh, I want that stillness right now. I just want to pause for a moment. That's really very beautiful. I wish I could pause longer, but we only have a minute left. I want to leave you the floor. Please just take the last couple minutes to let everyone know your final thoughts and also where that they can find you.
Sure. First of all, thank you.
Of course.
Bri. This was awesome. It came together really well. I really don't have any final thoughts other than where you can find me. I mean, jasonnavarre.com. I have the beginnings of a personal website that I plan to continue to build out to allow folks to reach out and connect with me. I'm obviously super passionate about having those one-on-ones, so I would invite anyone who heard anything that they were interested in or would want to expand on or spend more time with, please reach out. I'm an open book. I'm ready, willing, and able to share all of what I have shared and much more, and I would also love to invite others to maybe share with me any critical feedback, maybe anything that they might be able to offer that would help me to get better, because as confidently as I may have shared some of the things in that last piece, I also always leave myself open to realize that there is an opportunity for me to continue to grow and for me to continue to learn new lessons.
Yes.
It's possible that any part of that might, not be entirely accurate from someone else's point of view, but, I still feel that way.
Well, I think that's why we all get the place to be exactly who we are and feel exactly how we want to. So I appreciate you taking this space and time to be exactly who you are and share your story. We certainly covered development, decision-making, purpose all the way through. Your story is inspiring. It has been such a pleasure. Jason Navarre, everyone, thank you again.
Thank you, Bri.
Absolutely. And as I end all of my shows, until next time, let this be the moment.